Good morning and welcome to the Morning Breath live stream. I am your host, Jeremy Tennell, systems designer and coherence coach. It's nice to be with you all this morning. This week is week 4. This is day 19 of our 14-week journey, the path of personal transformation. And today we are going to be discussing breath. I think I'm going to start a little bit differently today, though. We're not going to dive right in. I think I'm going to talk just for a moment about what it is like to get up early in the morning before everything else is awake. It's a pretty magical time. This live stream is on the West Coast and it airs at 5:30 a.m. I get up at 4:30 and I begin to prepare my day, make my coffee, take whatever vitamins or supplements I need to take in order to get rolling, wash my face, brush my teeth. And as I sit here at my desk and the windows facing out are dark, the sun hasn't risen, but it's quiet. It's very quiet. I think that's what I like most about it. I think I appreciate the fact that the world isn't awake. Spring is here and the birds are back and building their nests, but they are not awake yet. Traffic hasn't started rolling, which is a wonderful thing. And the world sleeps while you have the opportunity in order to observe. It's a pretty magical moment. For those of you that are joining me from other places, I encourage you to give it a try. Get up early, go outside, go for a walk if you can, or just sit and listen and notice how quiet it is. That space, quietness, it's a rare thing on the outside world to find. It's why we go into nature. It's why we wake up early. But it can be found internally. It can be cultivated internally. And that journey to arrive at that internal place, to find it, to expand it, is a lot like the journey for many of us to get out into nature. We live in our urban environments and we have to pack up our equipment or our cars and make our journey in that direction. And for some of us, that journey might be quite far. Internally, that journey takes time. You can discover that quiet place quite quickly, but it might only be a fleeting moment. And it's only a fleeting moment because your mind is so used to creating chaos and noise and chatter. But that mind isn't you. We identify with the voice in our head. And if you're wondering what I mean by what voice in your head, it's the voice that just asked the question, what voice in my head? We become so used to the ongoing chatter that we think that that's the way it's supposed to be. But it's not, because you're not the chatter. And when you practice creating that space internally and expand that space, it's a little bit like when maybe you were in the pool or taking a bath and you would dip your head below the water's surface and all the noise that was above it quieted down. That chatter in your mind is like the world above the surface of the water. And that quiet place within is the depth below. And the deeper you can go and the longer you can stay under, the broader and the greater that space gets. The power of observation is an incredibly powerful tool. I imagine like an all-seeing eye within me, and I can turn that gaze internally or externally, even with my eyes closed, my physical eyes. That's my attention. That's how I can build awareness. I can point that gaze, that internal attention, towards my internal state of being or the external state of the world, and I can focus my attention on it. We focus that attention on the external state of the world without even thinking about it. It's how we move through our world. It's how we move through our day. But learning to focus that attention internally can be a powerful thing. One of the ways you can do that is when you prepare for your breath work, and we'll do this today. As you're taking your first couple of breaths, preparing the path forward, you begin to scan your body from head to toe internally, utilizing that vision of awareness in order to sense and find spots within you that maybe are uncomfortable, maybe need some attention. Cultivating that space and that awareness is so vital. And we've talked a lot about that over the past 4 weeks. In fact, over the last 4 weeks, we've laid the groundwork for everything that we're going to be talking going forward. We've talked about the practical nature of cultivating change within yourself. We talked about how to be accountable, how to be responsible, what those things actually mean. We talked about the places that we might find that are uncomfortable, the void, and how remaining in them can be powerful places to observe. We've talked about the mechanics of the breath, which we're going to talk about more today. We've talked about the process of getting yourself into a place where you can pause. That's what we've talked about this week. Moving from reaction to pause to pattern interruption. Those are the 3 things we covered this week. Going forward, we're going to be diving into how to apply those things. And I'll reference back to them. So if you missed it, or if you haven't seen those, go to the Plowline YouTube page and find the course, The Path of Personal Transformation, and review some of those, because the tools are all there. Before we dive into breath, not just breath work, but I want to talk a little bit about breath as a mechanism. I want to talk about why we're doing this. Why this is important now. I'm working on a PhD. I would call myself a reluctant scholar. I've worked with my hands my entire life. I come from a general contracting family. I've done a bit of that in my life. I was determined at a young age that I would go to college. So I did, and I got a writing degree. And I'm glad I did. I've been a writer my entire life. Didn't even know it really until I got into college. Started journaling when I was about 16, just kind of picked it up. A friend of mine was doing it, so I tried it. And writing has always been a part of who I am. But my vocations have been very practical. Education wasn't something that I was seeking as a way of life. I grew up at a time in which going and getting your degree was necessary, or at least that's what we were told. Much later in life, as the world transitioned around me and I transitioned with it because of the housing crisis of 2008, my wife encouraged me to go back and get a master's degree in the same program that she was going through, which was a program called Whole Systems Design, which was at Antioch University. It's good advice. It resonated with me. Systems is a model, a framework that came out of the cybernetics and computer revolution of the 90s and 40s. As we began to build digital computers, the algorithms that we were inputting weren't giving us the results that we were expecting. They were nonlinear. We had modeled the entire world for 600 years on the concepts of linear modalities, the idea that 1 + 1 = 2, A, B, C, D. But the world was changing with computers, and it was showing us results we didn't understand. And so we had to come up with a framework, a model, in order to understand how that system worked. And that was the basic idea behind systems theory and complexity theory. By the 1970s, individuals at MIT and Yale started to apply this concept to social frameworks. And it turned out it worked quite well. In fact, the world operates through a systemic model. The natural world is a systemic model. It's just we had ignored it through materialism and Cartesianism and deconstructionism, the concept that you can take a whole and break it down into its smallest parts in order to understand it. There's a major flaw with that. There's a major flaw with all of that. That model works. Clearly, the old model works because we built an entire world based off of it. But now that we've overlaid a digital world on top of the industrial world that our grandparents and great-grandparents and ancestors built, it's operating in a very different way. And those models no longer work. So consequently, we end up with a lot of tension in our current world because we're operating with old models in new paradigms. And the digital paradigm is not the old model. So systems and complexity models, systems and complexity paradigms, as they were applied in the 80s and the 90s to social settings by all kinds of social thinkers, it became very apparent that this model could help us understand our world in a way that we had previously not bothered to look because we didn't have to. Because our ability to extract whatever we wanted out of the world was simple. All we had to do was go and drill. Because our ability to build and consume anything we wanted was simple. Because we understood the basic functions of the physics of building anything we needed. But in a digital world, those linear inputs don't give us linear outputs. And we've literally overlaid ones and zeros, binary language, on top of everything we do. Everything. The entire world today runs on a binary function. On, off, up, down, 1, 0. That's the basis of the language for the computer digital world. And in many ways, that reality has seeped into the everyday reality of us. We live in the binary. We live in a world in which you have to choose right, left, liberal, Democrat. You have to choose a binary, which puts you into a singularity, which is a silo. Systems and complexity theory encourages us not to fall into the binary. It encourages us to hold realities simultaneously. It encourages us to not tear the whole down into its parts, but to observe the relationships between the parts in order to understand the whole. It acknowledges that you can't simply animate the materials of a human body, from the minerals to the water, and expect that it to dance, because there are emergent properties that occur in between the elements that make up this human frame. Systems and complexity theory became my world. I'm now getting a PhD in systems and complexity theory and writing a contributing model to systems called holofractal systems theory. And it's the idea that we are a series of embedded boundaries all the way in and all the way out, and that these boundaries are not solid, they're permeable. They interact with each other, they are interconnected with each other, and they interrelate. And I, as a human being, am a particularly strong node within this embedded system, within me and outside of myself, in which through attention and focus and breath, I can change the state of my reality. I can change the state of my reality internally, emotionally, and externally, which makes us change agents. In the world we live today, those digital algorithms are putting us in a constant reactionary loop. Constantly. They're designed to. And we are eating it up. With the rise of AI and soon enough quantum computations and computing, it's going to change that game. And if we as humans don't learn to evolve, don't learn the power that exists within this node of transformation, immediate and ongoing, within the embedded reality around us, the holofractal reality around us, and the fact that we as individuals possess a power that changes systems. In fact, all of systems are predicated on human compliance or human defiance. Right now, we lean heavily into compliance. We comply to every notification that our phone gives us. We comply to, well, that's just the way the world is. But the power to change it is actually in each of us. Every one of us possess that power. And the only way to access it is to cultivate the powerful skills of self-reflection, self-awareness, self-regulation, and ongoing self-inquiry. Because if you aren't embracing ongoing transformation and ongoing change, then you are resisting it. And the nature of reality itself is change. It is the one constant in the universe. So don't make change and transformation your enemy. Don't make stagnation and status quo your friend. Embrace transformation through self-reflection, self-awareness, self-regulation, and ongoing self-inquiry. And the way you do that is you learn how to work within that mechanism, which is space, knowing how to create and cultivate it, hold it. You practice that by yourself first, and then you bring that into the world. You hold space in conversations rather than reacting when somebody in front of you has an idea of how the world works that is completely counter to how you do. You can hold the space. You can inquire into the space. You'd be amazed at the power that exists within that. By learning how to utilize the mechanism of breath in order to change your perspective, your autonomic nervous system. These are powerful, powerful tools that exist within you. And that's why we're here. That is the path of personal transformation. That is what the Morning Breath live stream is about. It is about talking about and teaching each and every one of us to become practitioners of transformation, because it's already happening, and it can either happen to you or it can happen with you. You can be a catalyst of change or you can be a consumer of it. I'm bringing all this up today because breath in particular is maybe the most powerful element of everything that we have talked about in the past 4 weeks. Breath is the mechanism that allows you to do this shift internally and externally. This week we talked about activation. We talked about creating a pause, and we talked about pattern interruption. Those are great recognitions. Those are great ways to use your awareness to recognize. But it's breath that makes the change, and it's breath that makes the shift. When you're in the middle of that recognition of activation, and you are working to create the pause and interrupt the pattern, you do it through breath. Because what you'll find is when you're at the cusp of reaction, whatever it might be, your breath is doing its own thing. And if that's a stressful moment, it's probably shallow. And if it's an anxious moment, it's probably very low. So breath is what shifts it. I want you to take your journals today, at the end of the day, and I want you to spend the day observing those moments and catch your breath. Listen to it. Observe it. What's it doing in these moments? When you feel stress, pause. What's my breath doing right now? When you feel activation, what's my breath doing? And then go and write it down. Observe what your breath is doing in those moments. Now, let's do a little practice on how to disrupt that. And it's very simple. What's my breath doing right now? Breathe in, breathe out. You've just disrupted it. There it is right there. You just created a tiny fragment of space. Breathe in, breathe out. Space just got bigger. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel your shoulders drop. Breathe in, feel your face drop. Shift your hips, get in a comfortable position. And let's take this one step further. Let's target our heart, because our heart has an extremely powerful element to it. It's got its own brain, 50,000 neurons. It's been imaged. You can look up the heart brain, and if you Google it, and you'll find some three-dimensional images with a pattern of little gold flecks up here at the top in the heart brain. Those are the heart's neurons. And we can connect that intelligence with the logical intelligence of our mind that we use all the time. But it's not our only cognitive center. So let's breathe into it. Breathe out. I'm going to start our timer for breath work. Let's breathe in. Let's begin connecting our heart through gratitude. Create a gratitude list in your mind. Start small and spiral outwards. I'm thankful to be here. I am thankful for the day. When you find distraction, come back to your breath and your gratitude. Stay with it. Let's breathe in. Pause at the top and exhale. One more. Exhale. Use your breath. Engage with it today. See where it takes you. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. Have a good day.